apologize to anybody that sent us super chats and we didn't get to them this week because I don't have them printed out here on my desk. And I will remind my wonderful spouse that we need to do that because I think she did email me some. Let's look here. If I got an emailed one, I will print it out here. Yeah, I got one. Actually have it. My wife emailed it to me. She's on top of it. This one says, hey guys, great live stream. I have a question from my SC last Wednesday because it did not, super chat last Wednesday because it did not get answered. I did not have a screenshot of it. I did not know that I needed one. Jake said I could ask here and it would get answered. And it is. For 10 bucks, Deez says, my question was, if we get price appreciation before the Clarity Act, and then we get clarity how long will we be able to buy XDC, XLM, etc. for cheap? Actually, I think we did answer this one last week. I think we did print it out. And I talked about, I think XRP will appreciate first, and the others will appreciate over time, kind of like Solana, as the networks get adopted. Southern BitTrail says, what is Casino Coin doing on the XRPL? Is something there? It's not a project that I know a ton about. It's not something I've really looked into or given a lot of time and effort on. Could do great. Things that are attached to the XRPL will probably see some appreciation. Once the asset itself gets adopted, there will be a lot of liquidity in the ecosystem and it will look for places to go. Just like you can imagine, a flood coming through a creek bed. There's a lot of, side creeks and things off of the river that also get an influx of liquidity. So we could see, some liquidity move into Casino Coin. There's another group that I've talked to that I think is well positioned to be able to capitalize on that, at least with Indian reservations and those casinos. I don't know about the Wynn in Las Vegas and some of the other ones. But as far as the Indian casinos go, I think there's another project that I'm aware of that will do very well there. So not advocating for or against Casino Coin, but it's not something that I personally have any interest in. What's this person say? Brian Armstrong. Yeah, they talked about that. Trump removing his backing of Coinbase. There was a little back and forth between Brian Armstrong and Eleanor Terrett over there on Twitter. If you guys want to go watch the drama, I would encourage you to go read that. It's pretty good. We got Edit Guy. He says, Jake Adamas. Appreciate you, man. Can you explain why the U.S. 10-year yield is climbing? Shouldn't it be falling? So when people are selling treasuries, there has to be a higher interest rate in order to incentivize people to buy them. So as people sell bonds, the interest rates have to rise to meet demand and incentivize people to hold them. So that tells me that people are selling the US 10-year treasury if the yield is rising. Now, that's concerning because people believe that whatever the interest rate is paying out is not high enough for where yield or prices will be in 10 years, or that they have a better opportunity somewhere else. You're going to see a rotation out of those treasuries and other short duration and long duration US treasuries when the reverse carry trade unwinds. There's going to be a rotation from our treasuries into domestic treasuries there in Japan. They hold about $1.6 trillion of US debt that will be flowing onto the market. And stablecoin issuers will be the ones buying that debt. A lot of that is short duration, what's owned there by Japan. And that is exactly what's needed to back the stablecoins here in the US per the Genius Act. So there will be plenty of demand for US treasuries, but it'll likely be at a fairly high interest rate. Let's take a look at what the US 10-year treasury is. We're currently at 4.257 on the 10-year. And it's not really rising that aggressively. I mean, we were back down at 4 just a few months ago in October of 2025. And then we went up and we pulled back again around to 4% at the end of November. And since then we've moved up kind of aggressively from there back to 4.2. So, it's a 5% move over the last, call it 30 days, a little bit longer than that, 45 days. It's not overly crazy in treasuries. Similar over there on, the Japanese bonds. We continue to see those climb, but until there's an aggressive move, it's really not a problem. And we want the U.S. treasuries to move higher because the more interest they're paying, the less likely people will rotate out of those into Japanese treasuries. But we do have the FOMC here this month, toward the end of the month, I think 27th, 28th, where the Fed is expected to lower interest rates again, one more time, 25 basis points. We also have Japan, the BOJ, coming out this week with their interest rate hike. So they are expected to raise 25 basis points, but there are rumors that we could see more, somewhere between 75 and 100 basis points. That type of move, that type of jump would likely cause the reverse carry trade to unwind. Just because it's exaggerated and it's not something that the market is expecting. So we will have to see what the black swan is. Scuba Steve, love it. They say, what do you think about Lewis Jackson's hypothetical thesis of XRP being used by liquidity providers like Evernote versus banks holding the asset? Banks are liquidity providers, and they're literally been given the ability to hold digital assets by the OCC to pay fees on the network. What do I want to say about Evernorth? I'll know more Wednesday. Let's see here. Yeah, so they're going to be providing liquidity in new DeFi applications and ecosystems, seeding those at Evernorth. Continue to foster, liquidity on the XRPL, kind of being first to market in different applications, building products to help drive demand for XRP. On the other side of liquidity pools, I think they'll be participating in those. I think as AMMs get adopted, they'll be participating in those. All those things to be able to, one, lock up XRP and drive demand for it, but two, generate their return on the XRP that they're going to be paying out to investors through a dividend. I think that people that, buy that stock, we actually talked about this in the mastermind yesterday on the town hall. Some people, are like, is Evernorth a good investment? Evernorth is a couple ticks up the risk curve for an allocation to XRP. So if you just held the bearer asset, not a whole lot of risk. I mean, there's volatility, right? But Evernorth is a DAT, or a digital asset treasury company. We've seen others like this, that are like MicroStrategy, Tom Lee's company, and there's been many other DATs, that were formed middle of last year. There was a lot of people doing those. Some of them are trading below NAV. So what does that mean? Net asset value. So that means their share price is actually trading lower than a 1-to-1 with the amount of assets that they're holding. That's the problem with the DAT. It can trade below the net asset value and can also trade above the net asset value. It's kind of like a levered play on whatever the underlying asset is. So if you wanted an exaggerated position on XRP, if you thought it was going to do well and you thought that the company could manage its treasury well and generate returns and walk back and forth between buying the stock and buying the asset and raising debt on the open market, then it's probably a good investment. But again, you're going to need a higher risk tolerance if you're participating in a DAT versus holding the XRP itself, because XRP is always going to be a 1-to-1. ETFs are always going to be a 1-to-1. Evernorth is kind of a moving target. It could trade below NAV and it could also trade, above NAV. Velo or Vivo Power, I got to listen to their CEO, and they're buying Ripple stock alongside XRP because it's trading at a 4-to-1. So the amount of XRP that Ripple holds is actually about 4 times more valuable than the share price of Ripple. And this was before the tender offer at 250. Actually, it was actually right about the same time as the tender offer at 250. So that's a unique way of looking at it. If you were buying, Ripple equity, it's kind of you're getting a 4 times multiplier at the current price of XRP. So if you think XRP is going to be a much higher price, Ripple itself would pretty much be a DAT also, alongside Evernorth. But Evernorth is going public through a SPAC. It hasn't completed the SPAC yet. It's unusual that they would change the ticker. XRPN is the ticker before the SPAC was done. They actually did that last year, which again, very unusual for that type of thing, but cool to let people know, where to buy it before the SPAC is complete. So I've participated in one SPAC in my lifetime. It was for Nikola, which was a hydrogen-based trucking company. I bought in at like $12. And this was one of the few trades I made outside of Facebook, Amazon, Google, and Tesla in 2020. I put like five grand in. It wasn't anything crazy, but I did really well because it ran up to $75 after the SPAC until people figured out that it was a sham and they had just rolled a truck down a hill and they didn't actually have a working product. I am not AI, Brandon. Anyway, waiting on them for them to finalize the SPAC over there at Evernorth. But it's something that is also interesting for financial products that we're looking at. In the insurance, the diversification stuff that we're looking at, you can hold a certain percentage of each type of asset, and a DAT doesn't have a look through like an ETF does. So it technically counts as a different taxonomy or a different asset versus, XRP or Bitcoin or whatever else you're holding. So you could hold, a portion of your insurance policy for PPLI in Bitcoin, and then also a portion in MicroStrategy. Even though they are, correlated, they're not the exact same thing. Truest of Hearts 12. Very cool. They say, General Chat misses you. We are going to need you to come back 3 times a week for mental health check so we can refuel with your good juju. I can do that. I have slacked a little bit on the general chat this week. I appreciate the reminder. I will come see you guys over there in the mastermind. If you want to participate in the mastermind, I haven't even talked about that tonight. We would love to have you in there. This is the last month for social membership for you to be able to join social membership. A lot of people have misconstrued that. Social membership's not going away for anybody that's already there, but nobody else will be able to join for $25 a month moving forward. So if that sounds cool to you, you want to try it out, this is likely the last month that you'll be able to get that. Well, it will be the last month you'll be able to get it. So again, you can go to beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you the first month for a small discount there, like $20 in social. And that'll also give you access to all the in real life events. We got one tomorrow, John Deaton up in Boston. We got a dinner for him and a mastermind event. Some other cool people are going to be there, including Mickle, if you guys follow him, Mickle Mafia. He will be up there supporting John Deaton in his race for the Senate, and many others from the mastermind community. And then, like I mentioned, we're going to have the event in Nashville, Tennessee on St. Patty's Day this year with Canary Capital. We'll continue to co-host very cool events for people that participate in the mastermind all across the U.S.